Hello, everyone, and welcome to our talk today during our Emotional Healing Month for the Lori Hargis International School of Aromatherapy. Today, I have Ruth McGowan on with us, and we have had a heck of a time getting on, both of us today. So, Ruth is just going to be on by audio, you won't see her. However, today what we're talking about is stress, trauma, and shock. And you can see by using flower essences, they really make you resilient. No matter what happens, Ruth and I, we keep on, right, Ruth?
We certainly do. I think the title of today's stream is just perfect: stress and trauma. Yeah, we've had it for the last few working days trying to even get connected, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Exactly. So today, what we're going to be talking about is stress, trauma, and shock. And Ruth is a Bach flower expert. She's been using Bach flowers for over 30 years, and I am a flower essence practitioner, and I've been using them now for over 35 years. So we want to talk to you about this because we feel it's such an important part of just everyday life. We have a lot of stress in our lives, and how can we be more calm and feel more soothed on a regular basis, everyday basis, because there's just a lot of things happening all over the world, and a lot of things that we can't control. And I think that our flower today, which is Star of Bethlehem, is really appropriate. So, Ruth, how would you explain Star of Bethlehem?
There's two things that come to mind for me when it's Star of Bethlehem. Dr. Bach himself referred to it as the comfort remedy. Okay. And then the other one that I would think of is that it's like the neutralizer. So, for instance, Star of Bethlehem is one of the main, if not the main, ingredient in rescue remedy. And it really is for, twofold. So the first case is when you've literally had an experience which has brought about shock, trauma, panic, really something that you are finding it, you find yourself in a situation where it's emotionally very, very hard for you to deal with. So you start to retreat into yourself. So for instance, it will be in cases of where you've had some bad news, whatever that bad news happens to be. Maybe it's a massive disappointment, something that you were looking forward to. It doesn't necessarily have to be a tragic sense of news. It can also be for when you are going through something very sad. It could be traumatic to for whatever degree. It could also be, maybe not in the moment. It could also be for afterwards as well. So say, for instance, something has happened to you at some point in your life and you're having quite a bit of difficulty moving on or processing it really and getting through, because we all know there's no way around it. You have to go through whatever is causing the block in your life. You have to go through it. There's no way to deviate, shall we say, because if you deviate, all you're doing is shoving it, whatever the issue is, you're shoving it away for having to deal with it at a later time when it's going to become much bigger and much larger entity to be dealt with. So for instance, people who need Star of Bethlehem or who could benefit from it is, after a shock, people who feel emotionally numb, actually, it's really good for as well, where you're not processing what you've been through for whatever reason. And Star of Bethlehem, people who need it and people who resonated with it will have emotionally withdrawn so that they don't have to deal with the situation and with the reaction that they've had to whatever has occurred. The other thing that it's really good for as well is, say, for instance, you're having repetitive nightmares. Where again, it's the subconscious mind is obviously trying to deal and process with whatever you've been through. And because you're not facing it and because you're not trying to actively process it, it just keeps coming back to you in your sleep time. Whether that's during daytime or nighttime, it's coming back to you. So again, Star of Bethlehem, that's why it's really called, as I said at the beginning there, the neutralizer, because it helps when you're taking this as a treatment, it actually helps to neutralize all those feelings of panic and fear and trauma and shock and the upset. And it just brings things back into balance so that you can then begin to process in a positive fashion and move forward. And again, that's why I suppose Dr. Batch called it the comfort remedy, because that's exactly what it does. It brings you comfort and it brings your emotions, particularly when it's a situation where it's a very sad, traumatic situation, in the sense that maybe you've lost something or someone close to you. And it just brings everything, takes the edge off, really, is what it is. It takes the edge off where you feel like you're going to start losing control, which of course is where the other remedies that are involved in, or the flower essences that are involved in Rescue Remedy, really kick in and support each other to help support you in that moment. But yeah, so it really is for anybody who finds themselves in what we would call the negative state, so where they are finding that they're not able to deal with things, or they don't want to deal with things, and therefore they just really withdraw and they don't want to engage, they don't want to talk about it. Star of Bethlehem really and truly can help with that, and it can just calm the whole emotional system down to a point where you feel yourself that you are okay, you're getting into the point, you're getting into the position where you can start to process and deal and to actually heal from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you've made a really great point about this, about it being the comforting flower. And it's interesting because it's in the Liliaceae family. So it's in the lily family, you know, and how it's white and it comes up. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful, isn't it? And we're right now here at the time of Easter and the Easter lily, if you think about it.
Yeah,
And
gorgeous.
how when you just see that white flower, so if you could imagine how the Star of Bethlehem comes up, its white beautiful petals, and how just when you look at it, it's so calming and reassuring. I also know that Star of Bethlehem is very helpful for like separation anxiety when
Yes, and also for PTSD. I wouldn't really get into PTSD so much because it's such a complex issue. But that all starts from your body having had massive anxiety, shock, trauma, flashbacks. I mean, from whatever your situation is. So, really, again, when you think about the Star of Bethlehem being such a calming visual, it's a calming scent. Everything about it is calming. As you said, the color of it, everything is very calming about it. And so, again, if you think about it from the terms of the neutralizing effect of this flower essence, it neutralizes all those senses and actually helps restore the body's own self-healing abilities. Really, again, we're talking about trying to balance that energetic trauma that we've experienced.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's interesting is energetic trauma, you know, because it happens out here, but it revibrates in the body.
Absolutely,
So
yeah, it manifests itself. Yeah.
yeah, so it will manifest as different things. Like you said, it could be that once you've had the shock out here, it could come in and then you could be anxious, or as you said, you're replaying the trauma like you do in PTSD. You're going over and over and over it again. And Star of Bethlehem can, like you said, help neutralize that so then you can process it properly. You know, it's also very good. A lot of times when people have addictions, Well, if you're doing any kind of drugs, what can happen is you can get holes in your energy field from it, especially if you go unconscious doing a drug. And this is why using Star of Bethlehem can be so beneficial for someone who is going through drug addiction, because it can help with these holes that are out here in the energy field that you don't even know you have. People don't even understand how their energy field has been shocked and how that can help restore that, the Star of Bethlehem. I mean, if you look at the petals of it, how it comes out, and it's so beautiful. It's like it's coming out to protect you. And it's like the angel, you're taking the angel under your tongue and coming out here and protecting you and reassuring you and calming you. That's kind of how I feel about it when I see the flower itself.
Yeah, and just when we're talking there about the effects of there being damage or a gap in the energetic field, is that it can quite easily manifest itself in a physical symptom. So, if you're dealing with someone who perhaps after a shock, and it may not have been a shock that's just been immediate, it could have been some time ago. And for instance, we're saying there that it kind of can come out in like night terrors in kids. It can come out in children who are bedwetting when they really shouldn't be because they're past that stage. But again, it's all to do with the patterns of sleep and the emotions that they're dealing with in that phase. But it could also be, I also read somewhere as well that it can actually be it's not necessarily a physical block, but it manifests as a physical block. For instance, someone who isn't hearing what you're saying. It's not necessarily that there's a problem with their hearing. The problem is how they're processing what they're hearing due to the emotional shock that they've had, or how they perceive it. So that's how it can also come out in a physical symptom. Also, for instance, if I'm sure many of us, after we've had a shock like that, you get the ringing in your ears, which is a manifestation in the physical sense, but also sometimes your eyesight can be blurred for a little while after as well. You're not seeing correctly, you're not hearing correctly. So, and that, unless it's actually treated through all levels, it's going to become an issue.
Yes, because you've had a shock there, and
Yeah.
your vision is not right after that, then your vision can continue like that. Or if your hearing's like this, you have this ringing, or you've had a shock, and
Yeah.
then
I mean, most people
manifest.
it will pass. Most people that physical manifestation will pass by itself fairly quickly, but it just depends on the person, the individual, on how they can actually process.
Yes, and
Yeah.
interesting that you brought that up, Ruth, because being in Canada this last weekend with my grandson, and he's on that semi-professional hockey team,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so they're taking a lot of shock, a lot of
They
hits.
are a lot of physical body blocks. Yeah.
Yes, and he is guarding the goal, right? He's guarding the goal so the other team doesn't score, because they put him in a different position, and now he's guarding this goal with the goalie, and the guy goes in with his stick, and my grandson and this guy go right into the net, and my grandson is hit really hard into this net. He's down. The trainer's out there, you know, and he's not getting up.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and this is a shock, right? This is a shock. Well, what happened was he got, the way he got hit, he couldn't breathe. He couldn't get his air.
Yeah, he was completely winded. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
totally winded, couldn't get his air. So he gets his air and he comes out and he's okay, but he's got a cut here on his face, right?
Mm.
He gets back off, he goes off the ice, and they take him to the training room or whatever, check him out. Okay, well, he's back on the ice within 5 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then then the next quarter, another guy, he gets hit, and it's interesting. They both got hit by the same guy. Okay. And this guy gets hit and he's down on the ground. And then there's a fight over the top of him. Okay. And the trainer has to go down underneath this fight to get to this kid who's down. And this kid's not moving at all. I mean,
Oh,
he
goodness.
is not moving. He's not speaking, nothing. So they're bringing the stretcher out. Well, not only this kid is in such shock that he can't move. You know, there's different kinds of shock. There's a shock
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
can't move.
absolutely. Yeah.
There's a kind of shock where when you get up and you say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," you know, right? You try to get out of the shock, right? You get
Yeah.
up and you try to get out of the shock. "Oh, I'm so sorry," you know, like you did something wrong and you didn't.
Mm.
There's all different ways of shock and how it affects us and how we
Yeah.
respond to it and how our body responds to it, how our emotions respond to it. Well, he ended up coming out of it and standing up, getting out of it and walking off, and took him down to the thing. He got okay and he came back. So I was talking to my grandson. He goes, "Oh no, Grandma, he's fine now." And I go, "Yeah." But I said, that was a shock.
Mm-hmm.
That was a shock. That was a shock to you, and it was a shock to him. Because, you know, in that world, you're taught, you know, you're tough, right? You got to get up, you got to go, you know, you're all right. You got to play, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, with enough of those shocks over time, if he's not processing correctly, what will happen is that eventually he will start to develop anxiety about going out on the ice. I mean, you know, that's how it can start so easily, is just, I don't know if I can do this. No, it's not that I don't want to, it's that I don't know if I can.
Yeah, do I
So,
want to take another hit?
yeah, exactly. Am I capable of having another hit? Because I mean, they're repeat offenders, you know?
Yes. And so as I was watching this, I was thinking to myself, these trainers, they need to have Star of Bethlehem or Rescue Remedy with them at all times.
Yeah, I'd go with rescue
You know?
in that instance, where they're getting it from all different sides and from different ways. Yeah, and it's so fast as well when it happens, you know?
Yeah. And they could just give them 4 drops under the tongue or just rub it on their wrist.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
it would be so beneficial for these guys because it's like you said, it's like being an opera singer, you know, and your voice starts going on you because you're not sure that you can go out there on stage again. It's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Or even from the other extreme aspect is newborns. You know, I mean, they've been through the biggest shock and trauma, you know, and I mean, they're just on their journey. They're just starting out, and yeah, it's quite the experience. So, rescue remedy for mum, rescue remedy all round, absolutely.
Yeah. And I was thinking of animals too, you know, how this is so great for animals, Star
Yeah,
Bethlehem.
yeah, it's really effective.
And, you know, so many people, when they leave the home, because more people seem to have dogs indoors now. Especially since COVID, people have really have had animals more in their homes. And I think that when they go to work and they've left their dog, even though they have a dog walker come twice a day and all that kind of stuff, sometimes their dogs can be, you know, more jittery, right? And not
Well,
upset. So I think putting the Star of Bethlehem, you know, like 4 drops in a little bowl of water can be so helpful for this type of separation anxiety.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, bringing it back to the point of it being the comfort remedy
Hmm.
in a stressful, very stressful situation.
Yes, exactly. And Ruth, do you have anything else that you would like to say about Star Bethlehem? I mean, I just find it as just such a beautiful flower, and that it has helped me through so many things. And I find that it just restores me. It just makes me more vibrant again.
Yeah,
Brings me back to life, I should say. You know, because
well, it
trauma.
does, because it's centering you. It's bringing you back into balance completely. So the point that I would just make while we're finishing up here is that for if you have a question, you're trying to help someone, or yes, we're not going to do it as the self. We're going to do it where we're projecting that we're going to try and help somebody else who is having issues. They may be displaying something that's manifesting physically. It could be just that they have no explanation for why they're behaving in a particular way or they're reacting in a particular way. I would say if you don't know what flower essence to start with, pick Star of Bethlehem. That should always be your go-to when you don't know where to start a treatment. Because it is the remedy that gives the most comfort, it's soothing, and it gives the most relief by bringing the emotional state back into balance as quickly as possible. Because, I mean, it's coming from the extreme of shock. That shock may be there for many, 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 many years. It may not be something that's recent. And that's why I'm saying that if you're not quite sure what to start with Star of Bethlehem. If you don't want to start with that, start with Rescue Remedy.
Yes, those two are absolutely wonderful, because most people have had some form of shock or trauma in their life, whether it's been emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual. And so if you can't figure it out, Star of Bethlehem is absolutely a beautiful flower to use. And it's the perfect flower right now. Right now is the time of lilies coming out, and we're all sharing plants of lilies. So Star of Bethlehem is just the perfect flower for us to be using and to help comfort others and help them get through their shock, their stress, their trauma. And we hope that you guys have enjoyed this. And thank you, Ruth, for making sure you got on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We'll try again and try to appear in person better later in the week.
Yeah, we're supposed to be coming on, I think, on Thursday, right?
Thursday, I think. Yes.
Yes. So we'll see you
Fingers
guys
crossed.
on Thursday. We'll be doing this, and Thursday will be our final day of our talks on on fears with flower essences, and how flower essences are our superpowers for our emotional healing month of March. So we'll see you guys on Thursday at 11 a.m. And don't forget your essentials. Use your common sense. Au revoir.
Lon.
Bye-bye.